Welcome back with another exciting video. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like and leave a comment.
Before you press play on this story, understand this. Some places don't just hold history. They hold something that doesn't want to be disturbed. And once you hear what happened inside this abandoned house in the United States, you may never look at old buildings the same way again. Because this isn't just a ghost story. It's not just a rumor. It is a case file that was buried, witnesses that disappeared, and a house that people in the town still refuse to talk about after sunset. This is the story of the Blackthorn House. It began in the early 1960s in a quiet rural town in the northern United States, surrounded by endless pine forests and fog-covered hills. The town was the kind of place that nothing ever really happened. Everyone knew everyone. Doors were left unlocked. Children played outside until the streetlights came on. But just beyond the last row of houses, past an old gravel road that no one maintained anymore, stood a mansion. Locals called it Blackthorn House. No one remembered who built it. Some said it was a wealthy industrialist who vanished before finishing the construction. Others claimed it belonged to a doctor who performed unethical experiments in the basement. But most people agreed on one thing. No one who entered Blackthorn House ever came back the same, if they came back at all. The first documented disappearance happened in 1963. A group of 4 teenagers, curious and reckless, decided to explore the abandoned mansion. They had heard the rumors, strange lights at night, sounds of footsteps when the house was empty, and windows that appeared broken one day and repaired the next. They went inside during the afternoon. A neighbor saw them laughing as they crossed the broken iron gate. That was the last normal image anyone ever had of them. Only one of the 4 returned. He was found 3 days later, sitting on the edge of the forest road, barefoot, covered in dirt, his hands bleeding from scratches. He muttered the same phrase repeatedly. "It's still counting. It never stops counting." Doctors tried to question him. He couldn't explain where his friends were. He didn't even remember his own name properly. By the end of the week, he stopped speaking completely. A month later, he was placed in a psychiatric facility. 2 years after that, he died under unexplained circumstances. The other 3 teenagers were never found. The case was dismissed by local authorities as a tragic wilderness accident, but not everyone believed that explanation. A local police officer named Daniel Mercer reopened unofficial notes about the case. He had grown up in the town and had always been fascinated and disturbed by the house. In his private journal, later discovered by historians, he wrote, "There are no animal tracks leading out of that house, only leading in. That is not natural." Still, nothing official changed until 1971. That year, a construction worker reported hearing voices coming from inside Blackthorn House while inspecting nearby land for a possible road extension. He claimed the house was supposed to be empty, but he heard multiple people talking inside, arguing, laughing, and crying at the same time. When backup arrived, the house was silent. But the strange part was this: the front door was wide open, and fresh footprints covered the dusty floor, as if people had just walked in moments before. 3 officers entered. Only 2 came out. The missing officer, Thomas Grady, was never found. His flashlight was discovered on the 2nd floor,
still turned on, pointed directly at a wall carved with scratches, deep grooves carved into the wood, forming repeated patterns of numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and continuing endlessly. The surviving officers refused to describe what else they saw inside. One resigned immediately, the other transferred out of state and never spoke about the case again. By the late 1970s, Blackthorn House had become a forbidden subject in official records. The town government stopped responding to inquiries. Maps began to slowly erase the building's name, leaving only an empty space in the forest. But curiosity always finds a way. In 1985, a documentary filmmaker named Stephen Hale arrived in the town with a small crew. He had heard about the house that erases people and wanted to investigate it. Locals warned him not to go near it. One old woman told him, "If you hear knocking, do not answer. It is not asking to come in, it is asking to come out." Stephen ignored the warnings. He entered the house with 3 crew members and cameras rolling. At first, everything seemed normal: dusty furniture, broken windows, collapsing ceilings. But their audio recordings captured something unusual: a faint mechanical ticking sound coming from inside the walls. Then the sound changed. It became rhythmic, like counting. By the second hour of their investigation, one of the crew members reported seeing movement in the hallway, a shadow standing still at the end of the corridor. When they pointed the camera, nothing was there. But the recording later revealed something terrifying. A figure had been standing there, but it was not human. Its shape shifted between frames, like the camera could not decide what it was supposed to be. At 3 hours and 17 minutes into the recording, all audio stopped. The video continues for another 11 seconds. Only static remains. Stephen Hale and his crew were never seen again. The documentary footage was never released publicly, but fragments leaked over the years. Each fragment shows the same final image: a hallway stretching far longer than the house should physically allow. After that incident, the government officially sealed the property. Barbed wire was installed. Signs were placed: no entry, unsafe structure. But locals say the house did not stay quiet. Even today, people living near the forest report strange occurrences: lights turning on in empty rooms, footsteps circling the property at night, and sometimes voices counting softly in the wind. Always counting, never stopping.
In 1999, an urban exploration blogger attempted to document Blackthorn House using night vision cameras. His blog was updated once with a single entry: "I think the house is aware of me." He never posted again. His camera was later found near a river 10 miles away. The last recorded clip shows him standing inside the house, staring at a wall where names appeared to be written into the wallpaper. Names of people who had entered before him. And at the bottom of the list, his own name, already written. Psychologists who reviewed the case files suggested mass hysteria. Engineers claimed structural acoustics could explain the sounds. Skeptics insisted every disappearance had a rational explanation, but none of them could explain the most consistent detail across every account: the counting. Always counting, never random, never stopping. The final known official report came in 2008, when a survey drone accidentally flew over the property during a regional mapping project. The drone captured aerial footage of the house. From above, it looked normal at first, just an abandoned mansion surrounded by forest.
But then analysts noticed something strange. The house did not match its interior layout. The rooms on the inside were larger than the structure seen from outside. Some corridors appeared to extend beyond the physical boundaries of the building, as if the house was not a building at all, but a container for something far larger. When researchers attempted to fly a second drone, it lost signal the moment it crossed the property line. The last transmitted audio contained a faint whisper. 7, 8, 9. Today, Blackthorn House no longer appears on official maps. The forest has grown thicker around it. Roads leading to it have collapsed or rerouted. But travelers passing by still report the same feeling, a sense of being watched. And sometimes, if the wind is just right, they hear it again. That slow, patient counting, as if something inside the house is still waiting, still remembering, still keeping track. And no one knows what number it is on now, or what happens when it finally stops. The forest around Blackthorn House should have forgotten it by now. That's what the officials believed after the property was sealed off and removed from most maps. They assumed time would do what fences and warnings could not, erase curiosity. But Blackthorn House doesn't behave like something that can be forgotten. It waits. And in 2014, it started answering again. It began with a missing hiker. A young man named Eric Dalton was trekking through the northern woods with a GPS device and a small camera mounted on his backpack. His goal was simple: document abandoned structures in remote regions of the United States for his online channel. He was experienced, careful, methodical. He was also the first person in over a decade to unknowingly cross into the old boundary of Blackthorn territory. At 2:14 p.m., his GPS signal became unstable. At 2:16 p.m., the camera recorded him stopping suddenly. At 2:17 p.m., he spoke a sentence that would later be analyzed by investigators. Wait, there's a house here that wasn't on the map. The video shows trees thinning unnaturally fast as he walks forward. No trail, no ruins, no warning signs. Just open space where dense forest should have been. Then the house appears. Not gradually, not like something revealed by movement, but suddenly, fully formed, as if it had always been there and only now decided to be seen. Eric doesn't react with fear at first. He reacts with confusion. "Okay, that's not possible," he says, zooming his camera. "This wasn't here on satellite view." He approaches the gate. It is open. That detail alone would later disturb analysts more than anything else, because every documented account of Blackthorn House says the same thing. The gate is never supposed to open on its own. The video continues. Eric steps inside. At first, nothing unusual happens. The yard is overgrown, the house decayed. The structure matches the old reports: tilted roof, cracked windows, vines crawling like veins across stone walls. But then his microphone picks up something unexpected. A faint, rhythmic sound. Tick, pause, tick, pause. He stops walking. "Do you hear that?" he whispers. There is no response except wind, but the ticking grows clearer. It is not mechanical. It is synchronized, like multiple sources, all counting in perfect alignment. At 7 minutes and 42 seconds into the recording, Eric reaches the front door. It is slightly ajar. He hesitates, and then he does something every previous victim also did. He enters anyway. Inside, the air changes immediately. His breathing becomes louder in the microphone, almost echoing. The house feels too large for its exterior dimensions, something that appears in nearly every recovered report. He pans the camera down the hallway. The hallway is longer than it should be. Not metaphorically, physically. The walls stretch in a way that breaks architectural logic, bending slightly, as if space itself is unsure how far it should extend. Eric whispers, "That hallway, it wasn't that long from the outside." The ticking stops. Dead silence follows. That silence lasts exactly 4 seconds. Then the counting begins again. But now it is different. It is not one rhythm anymore. It is multiple voices, overlapping, layered, each counting at a slightly different speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Eric turns off his flashlight. A mistake, because the night vision mode of the camera reveals something that normal light did not. Shapes in the walls. Not shadows, not reflections, but silhouettes embedded inside the structure itself, like people pressed into the wood and plaster, facing outward, mouths open mid-count. Eric runs. The camera shakes violently. The hallway appears to extend as he moves, like the house is adjusting itself to keep distance consistent. Doors appear that were not there before, windows that show rooms that should not exist. At 12 minutes and 11 seconds, Eric stops running. He is back at the entrance hall. He did not turn around. The house brought him back.
The front door is now closed. Not locked, just closed from the inside. Eric begins to panic. He tries the door handle. It doesn't move. Then the counting stops again, and a new sound begins. Knocking from inside the walls. Not outside, inside. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks again. Then faster, then everywhere at once. The camera captures Eric backing into the center of the room. His voice is shaking. I think I understand what this place is." Static briefly distorts the audio. Then his voice returns, quieter. It's not a house. A long silence. It's a container. At 14 minutes and 33 seconds, all sound stops completely. The video continues. Eric looks upward. The ceiling is changing, subtly at first, then visibly. Wooden beams shifting like ribs. The structure above him no longer resembles architecture. It resembles something biological, breathing, or trying to. At 15 minutes and 2 seconds, Eric says the final recorded words. It doesn't want us to leave because we're already part of it. Then the camera falls. The footage turns sideways. For a few seconds, the viewer sees the floorboards, and carved into them, fresh as if just written, are numbers, continuing the sequence from earlier reports. But now they are no longer in order. They are rearranged, like something trying to fix a mistake. Eric Dalton was never found, but his camera was. Recovered 2 miles outside the forest, perfectly clean, fully functional, still recording. Investigators noted something disturbing. The recording did not end when it was dropped. It continued for exactly 11 more seconds after recovery. Those final seconds show something impossible. The camera is inside the house again, but Eric is not there. Instead, the hallway is filled with silhouettes standing motionless,
all facing the camera. And every single one of them is counting in unison. After this incident, authorities attempted a full containment operation. Drones, thermal scans, ground teams, all failed. The drones returned with corrupted footage. Thermal scans showed shifting heat signatures that did not correspond to human forms. Ground teams refused to enter past a certain point, reporting intense psychological pressure and auditory hallucinations of counting voices even outside the perimeter. The operation was shut down within 48 hours. Official explanation: environmental instability. Unofficial notes were marked classified, but the most disturbing discovery came years later when a retired analyst leaked internal archives. Among the files was a single satellite image taken during winter. The forest is covered in snow. The house is visible, but there is something new. Footprints, hundreds of them, all leading toward the house, none coming out. And at the center of the image, the house appears slightly different again. Now it has a new wing, one that was not there before, one that matches the shape of a human corridor. Today, Blackthorn House is still out there. No official agency acknowledges it. No maps show it. But hikers still vanish in that region every year, and locals still refuse to go near the deep forest after sunset. Because sometimes, when the night is quiet enough, they hear it again. Not footsteps, not wind, not animals, just counting. Soft, patient, getting closer to the next number, waiting for whoever is next to help it